Well, welcome back to a Briar-Side Chat. We got a good one for you today. We got Mike from the Pipe Farthing, wonderful pipe YouTube channel. And what I'm going to do, folks, I'm going to introduce you to my pipe. I've got the good old Bing, Savinelli's Bing's favorite, and my personal favorite, some Prince Albert in the bowl. So while I'm getting this guy lit, Mark, why don't you tell everybody what you're smoking and what you've got in the bowl as well?
Yeah, you bet. That's a nice looking pipe. So I am smoking, this is a Peterson system pipe, the 408. Recently picked this up from the Country Squire. Just a couple weeks ago, I was down there visiting my brother, and I actually just recorded before we hopped on here a first impression of this tobacco. It's Esoterica and So to Bed.
Okay.
And I didn't really know what to think of this when I was at the tobacco shop. This was from Michigan, Campbell's in Lansing. And I saw he had a bunch of Esoterica that came in. And I was looking at one of the other ones, which was an English blend. And the owner of the shop said, everybody raves about this one. He can never keep it on the shelves.
Huh.
And I said, okay, I will take your recommendation. And it's the first time I opened it and smoked it. This is the first bowl, and it's phenomenal.
So
I would
far,
like to get more.
so far it's tasty. And
It's very floral.
what do you think
Yeah.
about the Peterson there?
Oh, I love it. I love Peterson pipes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a few of them, and I like them all. I like the feel. I like the looks. I like the silver.
Yeah.
But like you like your K Woodies. I find that I like to go into antique stores and I like to look for pipes that are there, right?
Sure.
And sometimes they're just garbage, right? They're just burnt out. But once in a while, you'll find one that just has kind of a thick cake and the
Yeah.
stem's still in good shape. And I like to get those in. I don't know if I restore them per se, because they're not that far gone. But I love to resurrect them. And
Yeah.
I just call those my workhorse pipes. I've got a few Medicos. I got some
Mhm.
Grables that way. And those are probably the ones I go to the most.
And that
Um,
interesting.
there's just something about them. I like the old workhorse like my great grandpa, would have smoked. And
And
um,
so many people will talk about relatives, ancestors, that kind of thing, and having that connection with one of the, especially if you have one of theirs or one like one of theirs. I have yet to pick up one at an antique store or flea market or anything like that. I've had somebody, a friend of mine gave me a set of six that she had gone through
oh
helping
wow,
one. Um, Someone who had passed, and she helps people to clean out their houses and that kind of stuff. And this person said, yeah, these were dad's, I don't want them. And so my friend got them, gave them to me, and I brought all six of them back to life.
that's fantastic.
There was a Medico, there was a let's see, there was a Medico, two Medicos, I think,
Okay.
a K Woody, a Georg Jensen, and a Savinelli. And then there was
Nice.
one that was unidentified, other than it said that it was made in Denmark, but there was no other identification on it whatsoever.
Interesting.
Danish, but
Yeah.
so I haven't had that fun of actually getting into a shop and finding the undiscovered treasure yet.
I wish I could find more of them. I think if maybe I've just exhausted the area, but um, yeah, I think it'd be fun to do like an antique run one weekend and just search as many
Yeah,
shops as I can and just look for pipes. And then if, find what you find and then
yeah.
we'll go on. A couple weeks ago, my dad, my brother and I were down in Mississippi where my brother lives, and we had a pretty big antique shop down there. And my brother was able to find one that way.
Oh, that's
So he's just recently gotten the pipe smoking this year. And
good.
so he
Neat.
found a nice one. I don't remember what it was, but it'll clean up nice for him.
So let's talk a little bit about your pipe journey. How long have you been on the pipe journey, and how did you get into piping?
Oh gosh, it was probably a year out of high school.
Okay.
So it's been a while, back in the 90s. And just hunting. We're heading up north, my dad and we stopped at this, I don't know what it was, this little general store in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. And there's corn cob pipes and these little pouches of Prince Albert.
Really?
And it almost looked like a cigarette pack, but it was,
Yeah, yeah.
and I picked that up. And this is the worst part. I probably smoked out of that one pack never put it in anything. It became dried out, but I didn't know. I probably used that for like 3 years because I just smoke it a couple times a year. Basically,
God,
when I was hunting, I'm sure that was disgusting by the time, I was done getting through it, but I didn't know any different.
well, you
And
enjoyed it. I mean, what does it matter, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and but it would just sit in my drawer. I didn't put it in a bag or anything. I just rolled up the little cellophane that it was in,
Yeah,
and
right, right.
that was good. That was good. So that was most of my adult life was I had a couple pipes and I would smoke them at events. So our church does lectures, and afterward we'd have what's called the after party.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
my pipe would come out then, outdoor events, hunting. So I probably for the most part would smoke my pipe a dozen times a year,
Mm.
something like that. And then last year, my brother-in-law told me about one second here. Oh, we're still lit. He told me that we actually have a local shop that sells some different tobaccos. And at that point, there was a like just a beer shop um, near my house, and they always had like six different tobaccos. So I smoked black cordial forever, and I don't even know where it came from, if it was
Hmm.
Sutliff or Stokeby. They put their own names on it. And
Right.
then I went to something called the Philosopher's Blend, both aromatics. And I was expanding a little bit there, but I had no idea what I was expanding into. And I just had a few blends I liked. And so last year, my brother-in-law told me, hey, there's this shop called Indian River Tobacco, and they've got a lot of pipes, they've got tobaccos. And so I started to expand and find some of the Cornell and Deal stuff, the GLPs, and just starting to figure out what was what in the tobacco world. And then about the same time, um, Alan Harrelson was on Pints with Aquinas, which I watch that often.
Oh
And
yeah.
that kind of blew
Oh
things up. I was like, holy
yeah.
cow, there's this many different tobaccos. And
Yeah.
that actually opened me up into like the wide world of this could be addicting. Yeah, so easily went from just a few pipes that, was nothing to say about them. They're just basic kind of wall pipes. And then, well, I've got this and it's a joy. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
So now you mentioned hunting. Are you a gun guy in general?
yeah. Yep.
Do you know on and there's a point to this. Do you know either of a couple guys on YouTube, Hickok 45
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
and Masad Ayub?
No, not him.
All right. So Masad was a police officer. He works, I think, with Wilson uh firearms now. And anyhow, when I was getting into guns, I learned so much from watching Hickok 45 and watching Masad and some others. And same thing then when it came to pipes, it was Alan Harrelson, man. He,
Okay.
he is the gateway, I think, for so many people.
A
And then
lot
after
of
he was
people.
on Pints with Aquinas, man, that blew up his channel and got him so many more subscribers and people and so forth. There's a lot of cross pollination there.
That's
And
right.
it's just it's neat to see good folks on YouTube who are sharing good information, helping you into whether it's a hobby or a how-to or whatever. It's just so neat to watch those guys and interact with them.
Yeah, that's right. What was really fun is that it just blew up my whole world that there's a cajillion different tobaccos out there. Unfortunately, all kind of becoming monopolized under Scandinavian tobacco company, but
Yeah,
I wish that wasn't so much the case. But man, there's some good stuff out there. Um, and
yeah.
I have yet to probably scratch the surface on it. I have a few dozen different blends, but in my house, but yeah, there's still there's so many to explore. And I guess my philosophy is there's no rush. I'll get to it, and if I don't, I don't. It's okay. It's okay.
I haven't encountered anybody who enjoys a pipe who seems to enjoy rushing.
Right.
The
Yeah, there's
whole
no
thing is
point.
about, yeah, it's that intentional, slow kind of thing. And for me, I'm still really enjoying the my codgers, mostly Prince Albert, also Sir Walter Raleigh. Some people have sent me some stuff, and so now I'm starting to branch into a few other things. Early morning pipe. Um, there's a Svenborg Danish, and then
Mm,
I sent me some individual things, and then kind of started to blend a little bit of my own. But I would have to admit, I do keep coming back to the codgers most of the
yeah, that's what you like.
It's what I
That's
like.
great.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have found that I've settled into the English blends
Mm.
by far. I have my third iteration of a blend. I guess you could say. I just blended it earlier this week. So what would I say? It's fermenting or something right now, right?
Okay.
Um, but I should have brought it out here to show the label, but too late for that. But yeah, it's a good mix of some burleys. Three different burley blends are in it. I have some vanilla Cavendish, some vanilla Oriental, um, and then a little bit of Izmir and some Latakia. And I'm just keep tweaking it a little bit more. And I think this third iteration is going to hit home. The second iteration got really good reviews from my friends and family members who smoke pipes, but it was super smooth, but just didn't have a lot of flavor. And so I tweaked things a little bit more, and I think I'm there. But I'll find out next week in Tennessee.
Very, very cool. So you mentioned some friends and family that enjoy pipes, and talked about a store around you. Do you find a number of people in your area there in Michigan that are pipe people?
There are. So my brother-in-law and I, we definitely get together the most out of anybody else I know. And then a couple friends. One guy, his last name, it's a Polish name. It's Perkowski, and so he's got this little room on the top side of his barn. He calls it the Crack Barn, which I think has an Irish meaning to it. The Crack Barn, I don't know what, but um, so that's a lot of fun. They're actually on retreat this weekend. I was supposed to be going up to the Upper Peninsula
Mm,
for a retreat, and work meetings happened, and those ended today. And I was going to leave yesterday for that, and so that fell through, unfortunately. But yeah, a few people there. But there is if you ever listen to the Country Squire radio when it
mm,
was on, they would often talk about coming up to Grand Rapids.
okay,
And there's a shop here, the Indian River Tobacco Company. I think it's either the owner or maybe a manager that used to be there, but they were friends with him. And
okay,
so they would come up and that's where they'd go. And that's about 45 minutes from my house.
okay.
Other than that, it's 2 hours to Lansing. That's where
Yeah.
Campbell's Smoke Shop is, and I love that little place. That has a great little culture, and it's just you feel like you're out of time. You feel like it's 100 years ago.
Oh, I love it. And I've got to
Mhm.
explore more here in Indiana. So we live just north of Indianapolis, and there's literally 10 minutes down the road, a town called Noblesville. And on the square, there's a place called Carmack's,
Oh,
Carmack, Carmack's cigar lounge, and they've got tobaccos. He sells pipes and stuff. It's a nice little place. There's an excellent brick and mortar store in Bloomington, the home of IU, which has been there for 50 years or more, I think, called the Briar and the Burley. And
I've heard of that.
in fact, Mutton Chop Piper did a show where he went around and kind of filmed in the Briar and the Burley. Really nice, nice place. And that's about all that I'm aware of. And I just know there have to be some other cool pipe shops. There's probably some smaller towns in Indiana, and I just haven't gotten to explore them yet. But
Yeah, it
uh,
takes time, right? And then it costs money typically. So I have learned, and Steve, maybe you've learned this too. When I go to a pipe shop, I take cash only, and
that's
only as much as I'm willing to lose.
that's smart. That is a smart way to go. Um, I kind of I don't just do the cash thing, but I do kind of an idea whether I'm going to buy something, if I'm in the mood to buy something, or like I know I'm just looking and so forth. But
Yes.
it's hard just to look.
You seem like you'd be disciplined though enough to say no. I not so much.
The cool thing about pipes, and if you watch my channel, I'm big into fountain pens as well. There's and same thing with guns, and so many other things. There's just and you talk about the tobaccos, but for me, it's the shape and the color and the feel and maybe a particular maker or some history. I still want to get a Dr. Grayboe just because it's a historic American pipe. I've got I think I'm around 30 pipes right now, so not like a huge collection like some of the
hmm
online. But I've got a lot of different stuff. But I don't have a Grayboe, and I just want one because it's that classic brand, right? So
Yes.
so many things like that, and it's just it's fun. So I was looking at your channel, and a couple things I want to touch on. Uh, you use language that I use. You in your intro video, you talk about wanting to have a channel where you can talk about the true, the good, and the beautiful.
Oh, the
Uh,
transcendentals. It's
the
a must, right?
transcendental baby, and that just speaks to my heart. It speaks to my wife's heart. She is the head of a hybrid school, so they meet 2 days a week on campus. The other 3 days are basically homeschooling,
Yes.
but the curriculum is kind of set by this organization. And uh, truth, goodness, and beauty, man, that's everything. And it fits what sometimes we'll refer to as kind of a classical model of education.
Right.
A lot of Greco-Roman stuff. A lot of these places will also be teaching Latin, of course, but then also reading the other things in translation. And just was a wonderful video out recently on PBS NewsHour. Did a show on Purdue University, which caught my attention because our children either went or go to Purdue. And they're really pushing the liberal arts along with their engineering degrees. And they've got a whole program called Cornerstone. And it's one of these typical kind of great books kind of things, seminar kind of stuff. So, why did you want to bring that into the YouTube community?
Oh gosh, that's a question of the hour. That could take an hour to answer. I'll try to be quick. So my my background is I have a master's degree in theology from
Okay.
Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio. And you're familiar with that? With
I,
Steuben?
I'm
Okay, I
very,
figured.
very familiar with Steubenville. Yep.
Yeah, so I actually became Catholic in 1998 when I was in high school, my senior year of high school. I
Okay.
joined the church,
Were you
and
going to a public high school, if I may ask?
I was public school. Yep, yep. And I was raised Christian Reformed, and we attended regularly until I was in junior high, and then in Michigan we got the place up north, and so all summer we would be away, and then we just kind of stopped going to church altogether. I stayed involved in some of the youth group activities, and then in high school I never like fell away, but I just kind of I guess pretended like I was ignoring God, but I was still a good kid. I wasn't getting into trouble, but I always wanted more of God in my life. But I just didn't know what to do about it. Whatever, and I was pretty typical. And then my junior year of high school, I started going to different youth groups, and that got me thinking a lot more. And one was Baptist, one was I'll actually probably make a video on this at some point and go in depth. One was
Mm,
Baptist, one was non-denominational, and I had some Catholic friends. And I just started asking questions. And what got me was the authority question. Um, who's authority? And that sold me. And so from there, it was really easy for me. It was like I asked the most foundational question, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm in." And so that got me there. And then I went to college, and I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I was studying geology at Grand Valley State University in Michigan, and loved it. Still love geology. I love the outdoors. I have another YouTube channel called Mark Goes Hiking, where it's all backpacking stuff.
mm,
And
mm.
but my second year of college, I started just really getting into apologetics, and just a fire was lit to really understand the faith even more. And I don't know if apologetics is the best way to go about it, but that's what I was doing, and ended up transferring. I started pretty much failing chemistry, and transferred over to Aquinas College in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and earned my BA in theology there. Got married my last semester there, and then went to Franciscan for my master's degree. I did that distance program, and so I started working. I was teaching. I was working in Catholic parishes, youth ministry, DRE, director of religious education, and but it was interesting because we homeschooled our kids all the way through. My oldest is 20, my youngest is 17,
Wow, you
and
were very similar, similar ages, and we homeschooled as well.
yeah, yeah, and we did a classical curriculum. We hodgepodged it. We used a lot of like Charlotte Mason approach. My wife is a catechist of the Good Shepherd catechist. She's trained in all three levels and teaches all three levels.
My wife's a
And
huge Charlotte Mason person.
yeah, she's great stuff. We
Yeah.
use Ambleside for reading lists and
Okay.
all this sort of thing. And I don't know, the name John Senior and Dennis Quinn and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
figured you did. Yeah. So,
yeah, we got senior books right in my house. I could bring it.
amen,
Oh,
amen. So, do you happen to have a bootleg copy of his idea of a school?
I don't.
Okay, we'll chat offline. I'll get that to you. So that was something that was never printed.
Oh, really?
But there is a copy out there and copies of copies. So we'll chat offline.
So kind
And
of parallel to John Henry Newman's The Idea of a University.
maybe, yeah, and it's a very practical. So he does go through. That's probably a different topic, but he goes through the different stages of society, right? The aristocracy to an oligarchy to democracy to anarchy. So playing a lot off Plato as well there, and he's uh, anyway. And then he goes into what's kind of the cure for the young man, so the adolescent boy, for like 14 to 17, when his puberty and his passions are
Oh, I need
flaring,
to read
and
this.
and he goes through practically. It's like they should be living basically in kind of a boarding school, stone houses, nothing. It's all permanent, and when they shower, they should just drip down, and another boy throws cold water on them. They lather up, and then to teaches you humility, just to temper
Oh,
those
my
passions.
word.
But it's not extreme. Like when you read it, like this actually hits the heart of a boy.
Yeah,
To be outside, to be kind of roughing it, like be wild as a, but in the same way where you're kind of living wildly, there's also order and
yeah,
structure
yeah.
and humility. So anyway, that's what that work is about, and it's glorious to listen to. So we kind of followed that model. We used his good books, from in the back of the Death of Christian Culture, and used that throughout homeschooling. And we belonged to a parish that's near our house, but then we switched over to a parish about 35 minutes from our house. That mass was just very beautiful there. They said the Latin mass, still do. They're the one parish in our diocese that's allowed to, and because we realized that the education we were giving our children looked more beautiful than what we're seeing when we go to church, when we go to mass, because the church was modern and kind of ugly. And as an adult, we can do that. We can work through that.
Right,
But
right.
for a young child, I want them to see the full beauty of
Mm,
worship. And ultimately, Jesus is Jesus. But I think you
right.
know what I'm saying. I didn't want education to look more beautiful, the aesthetics to be more beautiful. And that was the decision we made. And I think it was the right one and a good one for us. It's not for, I mean, not everyone has to. We know great people at those parish, and sons are in the seminary, and they're awesome, amazing people. Um, but what I learned as I'm getting older is my education was so backward. And I earned a master's degree in theology, and I had barely read any good books. I think I took three philosophy courses in my entire college years, and I have a master's degree in theology. That seems very backward, and it is backward. It's upside down. And so I've been spending since I realized that, probably the last 15, 17 years or so, trying to turn that in its proper order.
Yep.
So I hope for the viewers that makes sense. But
Oh, my
grace
goodness.
builds on nature, and I didn't really build up the nature part. And so I'm trying to shove all of this grace into something I didn't even understand how to fit it in. There was even
Yeah.
a time in my undergrad that I thought reading Homer was stupid. And, and I was stupid, you know? So I'm like, what does this have to do with Jesus? And it's like, it has everything to do with
It does.
Jesus.
It does. It does.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of a long answer, but
No, I appreciate it. I do. And I hope the viewers will comment. Really, guys, you know how I love seeing your comments. So everybody get in there, you keyboard warriors, and start commenting. But I think for so many, and I'm a little older than you based on what you said about graduation from high school, but um, there's a swath of people, it seems, that have come to an awareness, and only by the grace of God, that has led us to these kinds of things. Now, admittedly, I majored in classics, got my master's in classics, so I knew a lot of that. But at the same time, I mean, I went to public high school, public school kid all the way through. And so while I did have some good stuff back there, um, still, we'd moved away from what things used to be, and things have only gotten worse as time's gone on. And you've got a number of parents now, a lot of people who, either for their own children or for their own sakes, have said, hey, I want to go in and fill in those gaps, either in my education or I want to make sure my child has a well-rounded education. And certainly that's what I know for our family and so many families we know. Homeschooling, some people will say, oh, you're just trying to retreat from the big bad public school. You're trying to shelter your kid. Well, maybe there is some of that
Sure.
because there's some things you really don't want in their formative years. But more importantly, it was about providing our children a well-rounded education. Now, my wife's an
Amen.
educator as well, so she was eminently qualified to do this. But the metaphor I've used many times, and I may have used it in an episode of my own here, but I said, can you imagine a school that said, we're going to teach all the subjects, going to do everything, and we are going to pretend that numbers do not exist. There will be no numbers on the clocks. There will be no room numbers on the doors of the classrooms. There will be no page numbers on any of the books, but everything else is going to be the same. And you're going, well, that's just ludicrous. Why would you do that? I'm going, the same thing is true then if you want to teach a curriculum and you're going to pretend that God does not exist. That's just
Mhm.
lunacy. That's lunacy.
Yes.
If you have come to the conclusion that John was not lying at the beginning of the fourth gospel when he
That's right.
said that in the beginning was the Word, Word was with God, Word was God. All things were made through him. Now, if that's true, if John's not lying, then in some way, and perhaps in a way that you and I don't fully understand, if 2 plus 2 is 4, if that is true, then that truth is somehow grounded in Jesus Christ. If it is
That's right.
true that Indianapolis is the capital of Indiana, somehow that truth is grounded in Jesus Christ, even though he lived obviously way before Indiana became a state, right? But
Hmm.
somehow or another, those truths are grounded in him. And
Yeah.
so we wanted our children to have that well-rounded education, the full story, as it were.
Oh,
So
that's beautiful. Yeah. Well said.
yeah, well, and so that's why I appreciate your channel. I don't know if you saw Alan Harrelson just released a video. I think it was literally yesterday or day before, in terms of the recording of our video here, um, where he's talking about the need to read books, and he
I did
specifically,
see that come up. I haven't viewed that yet. So,
brother, it is worth your time. I made our son is home right now, and so he's graduated from college, but he's home. And I made my wife and son sit down and watch it before we watched the movie last night, or the night before. I said, "Listen, you got to watch this video. It's only 14 minutes long, but you got to watch this video." And he makes such an excellent point, and it's actually a point that goes back to antiquity. The Roman philosopher Seneca said exactly the same thing, which is people are actually lying, said Seneca, if they pretend they don't have time to read. He says, you're just making that up. He says, because you got plenty of time.
oh, yeah.
You're just choosing to distract yourself with other stuff. And that was 2,000 years ago. Obviously, we distract ourselves now. So,
What do they distract themselves with is sometimes what I think about. And now, clearly, probably working to live, literally. Um, but I, it's wild to think about the time they probably really had. Um,
yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, I'll watch that video. I'm pretty regimented with keeping myself off of YouTube. Um, I basically allow myself watch a video a day, and otherwise I'll go down the rabbit hole of all kinds of good
So,
stuff. And
you will, and I do too. And I will say, when I was starting into the piping and or starting in my own piping channel, man, I was watching everybody's videos and I'm commenting on everybody's videos. Well, especially then as my channel kind of took off, I just don't have that kind of time.
right,
So I do try to respond to everybody that comments on one of my videos. I either give it a like, most of the time, probably 90% of the time, I'll actually write a quick reply back. But to do that, I just can't keep up with all the ones that I went ahead and subscribed to.
that's
But
right.
but
Hmm.
they're fun now and again. So
Yeah,
well, listen, brother, our time, I'm watching my time here on the old Zoom clock, and I hate that we're counting down. May I just say we need to continue this? Can we commit right now that we're going to have a second? or more episode, I'd love to chat with you further, and I think folks would love to hear some more as we chat. So if you'd be up for that, I'd love to do that again with you sometime.
Right on. I love it. And someday, because we don't live far from each other, we'll have to meet up. That's
That
always
would
better.
that would be great. Folks, if you would like to be on an episode of Briar-Side Chat, just shoot me an email, perkinspipes@gmail.com. We'd love to have you as a guest. And as Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as you know, I say in Latin, parva ago ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.
God bless everyone.